Get to it. I'm going to be your speaker here, so let me click a few buttons here to get out of the sunny outside and the palm trees and get back into my office here. So give me a minute here. And we should. There we are. All right, I'm in my office. Today, what I'm going to be talking about is basically just, some of my favorite productivity tips for the Mac and the iPad, iPhone, kind of thing. And I broke this up with, I'm going to start out with the Mac, and then I'm going to go to the iPad and iPhone. And depending on the time, I have some tips that can actually apply to both the Mac and the iPad on iPhone. So, or all three of them, I should say. So let's just get right to it and take a look at some of these tips that I have. The first one is how to, basically these first few tips are what I recommend people doing when they get a new Mac or anything like that. Or people ask me, what can I do to make things easier? And this is probably, one of my top 5, if not top 3 things that I recommend doing. So let's go over to my Mac. And what we're going to do is add the applications folder to the dock. And I'll show you why this is really nice. Right now, if I wanted to get to the applications folder, I'm in the Finder. What I'm able to do is basically go up to go in the menu bar here and, go to my applications. Probably not a lot of people use that. I can also use a keyboard shortcut. And most people, what they will probably do is open up a new Finder window and then go over to applications and then click on the application. So it works and it's nice, but there's an easier way of doing this. And it's really simple to do. What we want to do is we want to add the applications folder to the dock. So all I really need to do is just take this little icon here, and I drag it down to the left side of my dock here, or the right side of my dock. Sorry, get my left and right mixed up here. The right side of my dock. You have to be careful you don't put it in the trash. We're not throwing it away, but anything to the right of that little vertical line there, what we can do is we can add documents and folders. So now when I let go here, I basically just added my applications folder to the dock. Now, why do I like this? Well, I could be anywhere. I could be in the Finder here. I could be in Safari. And if I want to open up an application, all I need to do is just go down to my dock here. I click on it and I get beautiful icons. I can scroll up. It works with the keyboard. So if I wanted to open up Zoom on here, I just hit Z and you can see that it scrolled up to Zoom. I hit enter and it opens up that app. So it's a great way to find your applications. And if you have a lot of applications like what I do, sometimes I forget what applications I have. So this just makes it really easy to open up your applications. Now, I see in the comments there that somebody mentioned Launchpad. Launchpad is really good too. This is where Launchpad, and it is in the dock. The problem I have with Launchpad is it is not arranged in any certain order per se. So basically what it is, it's arranged by when you add the app. Now I can go in here and rearrange these, but what I really like about this is it's all in alphabetical order. I love stuff in a certain order, alphabetical order, and it doesn't cover up my app. And it just works great. So I think that is probably one of my favorite and one of the first things that I always do when I set up a new computer or anything like that. Add the applications folder to the dock. In fact, when I was at the school, what I did is I created a profile and we sent it out to all of the students because they didn't know where the applications folder was. All they had to do was go down to the dock and open it up, and then they could find their applications. So it's a great way to find all of your different applications. All right, what do we have next here? The next one is change what a new Finder window opens to. This one is a little bit of an annoyance to me, how Apple has it set up. And let's go back over to my Mac. When you open up a new Finder window, by default, what it does is it goes to your recent files. So when I open up a new Finder window, oops, I do not have it set. I'm going to set it up for default. I'll show you what I'm doing here shortly. All right. This is how a computer, a Mac, when you first open it up, what it's going to do is go to your recent files. And that's okay. A lot of people, seem to like that. And I think Apple is kind of pushing that because the folder hierarchy kind of thing is going away. People just go to their recents, things like that. But I think that I like it to open up to a specific folder. I want it to open up to my home folder, in fact. So instead of going here and now going over to my home folder, what I would rather have it do is open directly up to my home folder. So how can I do that? Well, basically what you need to do is go to your Finder preferences. Now I am using macOS Ventura, so it's no longer called preferences. It is called settings. So we go up to Finder in our menu bar, and then we go over to our settings, and you're going to see new Finder window shows. And by default, it's going to be recent. Now, just because I am using macOS Ventura does not mean that this is a macOS Ventura feature. Everything that I'm going to show you here, or most everything, and I'll try to remember if it's a macOS Ventura feature, but most everything that I'm going to show you here work across, multiple macOS versions. There's nothing, I'm not showing anything new necessarily in Ventura. So basically, all I have to do here is just click on this, and I select the folder that I want. So I'm going to go to my home folder. If you want to select your own folder, maybe you have a work in process folder or something like that, you can even do that. If you go here and you go to other, what you're able to do is select what folder you want it to open up to. Personally, like I said, I like to have it just open up to my home folder, and then from my home folder, what I'm able to do is just kind of go around and find what I need to find. So now, being that that is set to my home folder, when I open up a new Finder window, we can see it goes to my home folder. Every time I open up a new Finder window. Now what I'm able to do is actually what I'd like to do is go over to my downloads, and now I can see all of my downloads there. Now, before I go on to the next tip, I'm going to show you, this is a little bonus tip here. You're going to see that we have this little icon here. By default, Apple does not have this turned on. In fact, previous versions of Mac OS, you couldn't turn, so it was on by default, you couldn't turn it off, and then they came out in Mac OS Big Sur, they turned that off. That folder icon wasn't there unless you moved your cursor over top of it. And as soon as you move your cursor away, the folder went away. Then what you had to do is you had to go into Terminal. And if you like that, like what I do, I like to have that folder there. Then what you had to do is go into Terminal and turn it on that way. Well, now what you can do is you can actually turn that on. And this is a macOS Ventura setting. You can actually turn that on. And that is in your settings here. And I'm just going to go with icon, I think. Accessibility here. And what you're going to see, search is your friend, as we learned in the class last week with macOS Ventura. You really search is your friend in the new settings app because they really move things around and it's hard to find some stuff. But anyway, what you're going to see is show window title icons. And what you want to do is you want to turn that on. When you turn that on, this little guy shows up. And why do I like that? I said, this is a little bit of a bonus thing here, because what you can do is you can actually drag this icon out, and you're going to see we have a little plus. So I can duplicate that folder if I wanted to. So if I was in my downloads, and let's say I wanted to duplicate this photos here or move it somewhere, if I click on this little icon here, we can drag that and move it where I want. In fact, back to my applications, I can drag it down here into my dock, and now I have access to that folder in the dock. I can drag it over here to the sidebar, and now I have access to it in the sidebar. So that little icon there is actually quite handy, and I just like to have it show all the time. So that's a little bonus. All right, let's see what else I have here. Add trash to the toolbar. We're going to stick with the Finder here for a little bit. And another thing that I like to do is I like to add the trash to a Finder window toolbar. So when we go to our Finder window, we can see we have these little tools up here. And what we're able to do is customize this toolbar. This has been around, I want to say, since macOS 10 came out. But what we can do is we can customize this and we can move things around. We can move different tools there. And what I like to do is add the trash here. So then all I need to do is just select a file. So let's go to my downloads. And let's say I wanted to throw this away. Instead of clicking and dragging it down to the trash, all I would have to do is just select it and click on a button here to delete it. So in order to do that, what we do is we edit this. So I'm going to hold down the Control key and I click, and then we have Customize Toolbar. When I customize a toolbar, I have all of my different tools. So now you're going to see that I have Delete. I drag this up. And now in my toolbar here is trash. So if I wanted to throw this simple budget away, all I have to do now is just select it. And then I click on the trash. And what it'll do is it'll delete that document. So let's go ahead and click on it. And we can see it deleted it. So you don't have the cumbersome. I know drag and drop is cool, and it does make things easy. You know, it's the modern GUI, that kind of thing. But sometimes it's just as easy just to click and click. And of course, you can always use a command key, command delete, and that'll delete it as well. But I do like to have that in there. And you can select multiple things here, click on the trash, and it'll delete that. And this is going to be on every Finder window, because when you customize a Finder window, it does add it to all the Finder windows. Just as a side note, you can also customize the toolbar in Pages, Keynote, and Numbers, and a few third-party apps. So you can also, customize things there as well. Let's see what my next tip is. Turn on desktop stacks. This was something that Apple introduced, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, and I absolutely love it. I have it on my computer. It is something that I use on something that I rely on a daily basis. So what are desktop stacks? Well, if you look at my desktop here, I have a lot of files here, and basically they're unorganized. Now, one thing I can do is I can just go and move these around to organize them. But let's just say I add another document in here. Places in there. I got to go and put it in there. Just go and duplicate this one. Now I got to go and move it over here. I can put it down here. Okay, that works. But how often do we really do that? So what Apple has always had is, if we go up to View, what we can do is we can clean this up. When we clean it up, this is a one-time thing. So when I go and clean it up by kind, so I want to group all of my images together, all of my documents together, all of my movies together. When I do that, now you can see all of my images here are together, all of my documents, numbers documents. But the problem with that is it's a one-time thing. So now if I go and duplicate this, guess what I'm getting into? Back to my same old messy desktop again. So the next order, what most people do is they will go sort by. And when you sort by, what it does is it keeps it sorted by whatever you want. And again, I'm going to go with kind here. So now, by default, what it's going to do is keep these sorted. So I add an image in here. We can see it's just duplicating them, and it is, keeping them organized by kind. And that works pretty good, but you can see I'm starting to fill up that screen. If I were to duplicate this, let's just go and copy these. Let's duplicate that. And let's go with these images here. Let's go and duplicate these images. You can see it's starting to creep up. And as I add more documents, all of a sudden, my screen is going to be overflowing flow. It's going to, overflow. Now, in past versions of Mac OS, Apple actually recommended that you did not keep a lot of items on your desktop. And the reason is because it's constantly redrawing that. Newer Macs, you don't necessarily have to worry about that. I haven't heard anything with that. But I still don't like the idea of keeping a lot of items on your desktop. But it's not that critical as it was in the past, because these computers are so fast these days. But once you can still see you can get into a messy situation here. So what Apple introduced was desktop stacks, and this only works on the desktop. You can't do this with any folders or anything like that. But basically what I do here is I go up to View in the menu bar. I do have to be in the Finder, so I'm in my Finder here. And you're going to see Use Stacks. This was, like I say, this was introduced a couple of years ago. So, if you have a relatively new Mac OS, you're going to have this option. Now, watch what happens when I select Use Stacks. It basically stacked everything, and it stacked them by kind. So here are all of my images. You can see it's a little stack. Here are all of my PDF documents. Here are all of my spreadsheets. If I had Pages documents, it would say, here are all of my my Pages documents. If I had Keynote, here are all my presentations. It grouped them together by kind. If you want to change how they are grouped, although I like it by kind, you can select how you want to have them grouped. So you can see it's by kind here. You can have it by date or anything like that. All right, so now they're in stacks, but let's say I wanted to get to an image. I want to get to a spreadsheet. What do? Well, all you have to do is just click on that stack, and it'll open up that stack. So let's go over to my spreadsheets here. When I click on this, we can see it open it up. Now I can go and select what spreadsheet I want. So everything else is still closed. Open up what I want. I go and close the stack, and now I can work in that document. Maybe I'm looking for a specific photo. I click on the images stack. I can find that photo that I want. I close the stack. We're back to a nice clean desktop. And we can open up multiple stacks. So you can see I have my spreadsheets and my images stack opened here. Now, as I mentioned, when we actually go to the desktop folder, they are not arranged in stacks. So this is just a desktop visualization kind of thing. It's not moving any files or anything like that. You go to the folder, all of your files are still going to be there in list, and what you're able to do is go and put them in a list format, this, that, and the other. But when you look at them on the desktop, just to keep things a little bit organized, what you are able to do is put them into stacks. So that is one of the things that when Apple introduced this, to me, it was a game changer for me. I use my desktop as a temporary holding pattern, kind of thing. If I'm working on a document, guess where it is? It's on my desktop. And then eventually I will put it into a folder down the road. So sometimes my desktop can get it can get a little messy. I have a lot of files on there. Screenshots, when you take a screenshot, guess where they go by default? To your desktop. So now when you turn desktop stacks on, it'll just put it into a stack. So if I take a screenshot here, oops, let's try it again. So there's one screenshot. Let's do another one. We'll do another one. And what you're going to see here is, once that little thumbnail disappears, there it is, it's stacking all of them. I want to look at all my screenshots. I click on it, and now I can see all of them. So that is desktop stacks. Let's stick with the desktop here. And another favorite trick of mine is to use hot corners to show the desktop. So let's go back over to my Mac. And if I have a lot of windows open, let's go and open up a few windows. So I'm going to go to Safari, and we'll open up a few of these windows here. And we'll go to Weather Channel. And now what we're going to do is open up a Finder window. Let's open up another Finder window. This one we're going to go to Applications. Let's open up a clock. This is typically how we work with our Mac, right? We have a lot of windows that are open. The problem now is, what do? I need to get to the desktop. What do you do? Well, one way of doing that, if you're familiar with mission control, probably not a lot of people are familiar with mission control, is you can swipe up to look at all the windows, but it still doesn't quite get you to the desktop. So what you have to do is just kind of hide everything. That's one way of doing it. It's cumbersome is my point. Well, if you use hot corners, what you can do is move all of these windows away from your desktop and show the desktop. So let's go and set that up, and then you'll see what I mean. So I need to go to my system settings again. Again, this is nothing new. So if you're using an older version of Mac OS, you can do this with older versions as well. And what we need to do is go to, I believe it is, I'm not even sure where it is on here. I'll just search for it. On the Mac, or with system preferences, it's located under mission control. And but basically, I'm just going to search for it here. So here it is, hot corners. It's under accessibility. Again, they moved a lot of stuff. So now, when I go to, well, it's not even there. Hold on here. Hot corners is not an accessibility. Hot corners, there it is. That's the one I want. All right. So basically what we can do now is we can set, when we move our cursor into one of the corners, one of the four corners, the Mac will do something. So what I like to do, my preference is in the lower left corner here, because I have a dual monitor system. So I have a monitor on my right side here. So I don't like to use my right side. I use the left side, but you can choose whatever corner you want. Basically what I do here is I click on this, and this is everything that you can have the Mac do when it goes into that corner. You may be familiar with Quick Note, and you're going to see that all that is just a hot corner. Quick Note is when you move your cursor to the lower right-hand corner. By default, what it's going to do is open up a new Quick Note in the Notes app. This is something that Apple added, but you can see what they did is they added it as a hot corner. So you can easily turn that off. But back to my desktop here. This is what I like to do. I like to show the desktop. So I click on desktop here. And now I have all these windows open. As we can see, we have a few different windows open. I want to get to the desktop. I want to get to my desktop stacks. Watch what happens when I move my cursor in the lower left-hand corner here. Move it all the way down in the corner. There's my desktop. Now what I'm able to do is click on these. I can open them. I can do whatever I want. I want to get back to all of my windows. All I have to do is just go back over here, and now I'm looking at all of my windows again. So this is something that I use on a daily basis because I have a lot of windows open. I need to get to something on my desktop. Again, I use my desktop as a holding pattern, kind of thing, a temporary work in process, however you want to call it. So I need to get at stuff on my desktop quite a bit. I could add it to a dock, add the folder to the dock, but I find it easiest just to go boom, get to what I need. And when I need to go back, I just put my cursor back, and now it's back. So that is a great trick to show your desktop just by moving your cursor to any one of the corners. The next tip is something that is probably, I dare say it's got to be my top 5 videos on YouTube. It's tens of thousands of views, if I'm not mistaken, that I've gotten on this next tip. So people seem to really, really like it. And this one is whoops, I got it backwards. The next one, the little anticipation, the next one is probably the favorite tip, one of the favorite tips that people like. This one is one that I actually like. We can always show the menu bar. So when we go to our Mac and we open up an app in full screen, let's go to my calendar here. And when I open this up in full screen, you probably know that the menu bar will disappear. So I'm going to click on this, and you're going to see that the menu bar disappeared. This is the default behavior of the Mac. Now, how do we get to our menu bar then? Well, basically all we have to do is just bring our cursor up, and then we can get to our menu bar, bring it back down. It disappears again. I personally don't like that. I use the menu bar. There are features in the menu bar that I'm not familiar with. I don't use key commands. You know, I fumble around with some of these other apps, and I do use apps in full screen mode. It is a common thing for me to do. So what I like to do is I like to have that menu bar always show. I use the menu bar. Well, you can easily do that. And again, this is not a macOS Ventura setting. In order to do that, let's just close this here. We have to go back to our system settings. And then what we have here is well, actually, I'm going to search for it again because I'm not familiar with the settings app. Let's see here, menu bar. And it's somewhere in here. It's not that one. As you can see, you're gonna struggle with this new settings, but I'm sure it'll come to everyone. Might be under desktop and dock. You'd think it'd be under menu bar, but it's not. So here's the menu bar, and by default, what it's going to do is the menu bar is going to hide in full screen only. What I like to do is have it never hide. So basically, it's always going to show. So when I select this, that menu bar will always show. So now let's go back over to my calendar and let's open this up in full screen and take a look at that menu bar. It's always showing there. So if you like to use full screen, this is a great tip. And I find it just invaluable. I've never liked the menu bar hiding, and now you can always show that. And this was introduced, I want to say maybe 2 macOS versions ago. It's relatively new, so if you're using something that's a little, going back 3 or 4 years, you might not have it, but it is not a macOS Ventura setting. We have one more with the Mac, and then maybe what I'll do is a short little Q&A. And then we'll get into the iPad and iPhone, some tips on the iPad and iPhone. So here is probably one of my most popular videos. Wrong one. Where is it? It's not showing. All right. I didn't create a slide for it. Well, I'm going to show you anyway. This one is how to always show the scroll bar on the Mac. So for those of you that go way back, you probably remember with Mac OS 9, Mac OS 8 and all that, you have this little scroll bar here, and that always was shown when you were using Mac OS 8, Mac OS 9, and it might have actually always shown even with the earlier versions of Mac OS 10. Well, Apple introduced, not too long after Mac OS 10 came out, where what happens is this hides. So when I move my cursor away, you're going to see that disappears. I move my cursor back over there. It doesn't come back. How do we get it back? We have to start scrolling. And now we can see we have my menu or my scroll bar there. What I like to do is I like to have this always show. And the reason why I like to have this show is because what this does is this indicates how much or how long the page is. So we can see that as I scroll down, if this page, let's go and make this a little smaller. You're going to see that gets a little smaller because I have to scroll a lot more. So if you like to see how long a page is, the thing you have to do is you have to start a scroll, and then you can see how long that scroll is, and then it disappears. Kind of annoying. Same thing with if I go to system settings. We have scroll here, but it disappears when I stop moving my cursor. If I go to accessibility, we have a lot of options here. It disappears. So what we're able to do is always show the scroll bar. And this has been around, I want to say, since they initiated where it hides automatically. You could always do this, but it's probably a seldom seldom known feature, I dare say. So what we do is we need to go to General, and you'll do this on in System Preferences too. You go to the General Preferences. And what you're going to see here is, it's not under General. Appearance. Okay, sorry, it's under Appearance. Under Appearance, you're going to see Show Scroll Bars. And by default, it's going to be set to automatic. Don't ask me what automatically based on mouse or trackpad means. I have no idea. All I know is I just go over here to Always. And when I click on Always, you're going to see that the scroll bars here, the scroll bars here. And when I go to Accessibility, the scroll bars here. So that scroll bar is always going to show. So I can go over here to Finder. I can scroll around. We have the scroll bar. I move my cursor. It's always showing. So now I know I can just go over here and grab it and move it. I don't have to actually scroll it. I can go to another page here. I can just grab it and scroll down. I don't have to initiate a scrolling motion. So that is probably one of my most popular tips on the Mac, and people seem to really, really love that one. It's probably one of those things that people missed. I'm surprised at how well it is liked. Does anyone, before I get to the iPad and iPhone, it's primarily going to be the iPad, but a lot of the stuff with the iPad you can do on the iPhone as well. Does anyone have any questions on some of those tips for the Mac?
Don Peacock, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, on the hot corners, I have the latest Ventura, and I've found it as you told us how to find it, but I've not done anything when I upgraded to Ventura. It kept my previous settings, but now when I'm on hot corners, they're all indicated hide, show, home panel. All four of them are, they're not showing what my settings actually are. I've never fooled with it under Ventura, so I'm almost afraid to do anything because I'm happy. I've always had the same.
Right.
I get the same, either show all the open windows, show the desktop. What else do I have? Oh, put the display to sleep. I always use that. And anyway, I'm wondering, is that just the way it is? I can.
Yeah, I would say you could go and change them to what they were originally. You'll have to go and select them manually. Most of the time when you do an upgrade or whatever, all your settings come through, but just every once in a while, there's a fluke. And I'd say with a good amount of confidence, you'll be able to just go and say, well, I want to have this show my application windows, and now next time you use that hot corner, it'll do that.
Thank you.
Jane Wood, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thank you. Yes. So I updated to Ventura, and when I like to watch YouTube videos and schedule the computer to go to sleep, because that's what I plan to do too.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't mind setting a particular time or setting an amount of time, like an hour or whatever, but I can't find it in Ventura. When I Google about it, it tells me to use Terminal. And I'm really hoping there's a more intuitive way to do this besides using the dangerous Terminal.
Right. Right. I do not, that would be under energy settings, right? Energy settings and battery.
Yep, that's where it used to be.
Yep. And options, wake for network, but there's no sleep in there. There's no schedule. Let's go to schedule. What you might want to do is take a look at screen time. And under screen time, you're going to see schedule here. And every day, let's see here, and what I can do is I can schedule downtime. Well, it doesn't turn the display off. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I
Well,
didn't realize they took that out.
this is good to know though, because I listen to these YouTube videos and so I'm not viewing them anyway. So it looks like the path to that was battery / downtime / screen time.
What I did is I just searched for screen time. This is their new setting that they introduced a couple of years ago that monitors how you can set how often you want or how long you want to be on a specific app every day. So you could, like Facebook or something like that, more for the iPad and iPhone, but now they also have it on the Mac too. So,
Okay.
so you could limit kids and things like that. But I think there's more to it. My wife uses it. I don't, but I should play around with it a little bit more just to see what it does. But I would think, like you said, energy, that's what it used to be called, as energy, and display settings, displays. But there's nothing in here about a time.
Yeah.
And that's, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So the path to where you talked about screen time, I think it was.
Mhm.
So I go to settings and then then I search for screen time. Is that what you
Yep.
did? Okay. And then I
think
go to
there is
screen time.
an actual, if I go in here, there's no, I would search for it. Search
Okay,
is going to be your friend with macOS Ventura.
So I'm at screen time and I just see that one little line there. Do I do something there to set?
Yeah, turn that
Oh.
on and you'll have to kind of play with it and see what options
Okay.
you have here.
Okay. Thank
There
you.
might be something, I don't know if there's anything in there that'll help you, but it's worth a shot to take a look.
Yeah.
That's what it's designed for. So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right.
Hold on a second.
We good?
Sort of. Keith and Deb, you have a comment about hot corners. Can you unmute yourself, please? So are there, Keith and Deb, search hot corners and settings returns 2 locations. They are different. So go ahead. Keith and Deb,
Well,
go ahead.
that was just a comment to the last question about where to find hot corners. He was at the wrong. Yes, if you click that one, the accessibilities, that's a different hot corners. At least it looks different than the desktop and dock one.
It is.
And that's what the other gentleman was having a problem with, I think.
Yeah, if you go here, it takes you to accessibility settings for hot corners where you can dwell. This actually came over from the iPad. This has been on the iPad for a while. But this is the one that we want. Yes, thank you. Yep.
David Winograd, are you asking a question or making a comment?
I'm asking a question. I have a 3-monitor system. So how do hot corners work on that? Which monitor? Is it the far left ones for left and right, up and down, and the far right one?
It is whatever. Let's see. So if I have a 3, you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing here, but basically it works on all 3 of the monitors. I just tested it. So if you have your monitor here, and then you have one over here, and then one over here, you can go into the lower left corner of each one of those monitors, and it'll show the desktop.
Okay.
So
thank you.
the trick to making that work is if all the monitors are the same size, when you go into system settings, make sure that they're just a little bit off. Like one's a little taller than the other, because then otherwise, when you go into the corner, it'll just go to the next monitor. Yeah, but yeah, it'll works on all monitors.
Thank you.
All right. Michael Skapik, do you have a question? Your microphone is open. Okay, I guess that means no. Go ahead, Dan.
All right. Couple other, I was going to talk, someone mentioned about focus. I've been playing around with focus. Focus is very powerful. I'm not going to get into that you could spend a half hour on focus, and there's, different tricks and things like that you can do with it. But one of the things with focus, what you can do is when you go into your focus here, you set up your different focuses. And I found this is new in macOS Ventura. This one here, focus filters, is extremely powerful. Basically, what you're able to do if you have multiple mail accounts, like I have a school account, I have a work account, I have a personal account. When I'm at the school, I don't want to see my work account. I want to see my school account. So what you're able to do is add a filter for mail, and you can do this on the iPad and iPhone as well, and then select which account you want to see when you're in that focus. Pretty powerful stuff. And you can see you have different filters. Same thing with calendar. Maybe you only want to see your school calendar when you're at the school, or I'm at the school, I should say. What I'm able to do is select this, and then I select which calendars I want to see. So when I'm in that focus, all I'm doing is seeing the stuff that I want to see. Pretty powerful stuff. Focus is coming into play probably another year or two before it really shines, but I can see where they're going with it, and I think it's going to be helpful for a lot of people. Spaces, all the hot corners and all that works with spaces. I can go up here. I have my spaces here. Basically everything all just kind of works the same. I can go on the corner as my desktop. I can go to the space, there's my desktop. So it doesn't affect spaces at all or anything like that. So, all right, let's go to the iPad and take a look at this. Add apps to the home screen through Spotlight Search. So I don't know how many people know this, but with since iPad OS 15 and iOS 15, what you are able to do is have multiple instances of an app. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, basically, I have dark sky on there. That doesn't work anymore. So let's go with my Notes app. What I'm able to do is set up different home screens, as we know, and maybe I have a home screen set up for school, and I have a home screen set up for work, and I have a home screen set up for personal. So each one of those home screens is going to have the apps that I need for that specific task. And the beauty of this is why I say focus could almost be its own little thing. With focus, what you're able to do is when you go into a focus, and you can have it be automatic. I saw that in the chat, based on location, time, or when you open up an app, what you can do is you can have it switch to a specific home screen. So when I go to the school, it would just show me my school apps. I go back home, it would show me my home apps. Now, kind of nice, but if I have my notes here, I use the same Notes app for school. I'd like to add that notes to the school. Now I could add it to the doc, but in personal, maybe I don't want to have the Notes app there. So I don't want to have it on every home screen. I would just like to have it on specific home screens. Well, you can easily do that since iOS 15. Basically, all you're doing is you're creating an alias or a shortcut. It is not actually duplicating the app. It is not going to be a separate document. It's not going to be a separate, separate notes or anything like that. It's just another way to open up your Notes app. So what I'd like to do is I have my notes here. You can see it here. I'd like to add it to this screen as well. So how can I do that? How do I duplicate that? The easiest way I have found is searching for it. So I swipe down, I get my Spotlight Search. I search for notes. We can see we have notes here. And now all I need to do is just drag this to my home screen, and I place it where I want. So I just, I didn't mean to open it. Let's try it again. I just click and drag, and you can see we have the little green plus there. I can place it where I want. I can put it in a folder. I let go. Now my notes is here on this home screen, and it's here on this home screen. So when I open this up, we can see it opens up my notes. I'm looking at Ecamm Zoom settings. And when I go over here, open up notes, again, it's the same document. All it is just an easy way to open up notes. So what you are able to do is place apps in multiple positions and or multiple home screens. And the way that you can do that easily is just going to search, drag, boom, there it is. Now, if I remove it, it's going to remove it from this home screen. Well, let's remove notes here. So I tap and hold. I remove the app. What it's going to do is remove it from this home screen. Remember, I have it on my first home screen. It's still there. So you're not removing the app altogether. All you're doing is removing it from that specific home screen. So that is a nice way of setting up your iPad, for different things. And then when you do go into focus, what you're able to do is set, right here it is, customize screens. I can choose which home screen. So let's just say this one's my school. So now when I'm at the school, it's going to show me this home screen and only this home screen. When I leave the school, it'll show me all of the home screens. I can even select a couple of them here. And this one will have my Notes app. And then when I get back home, this one will have my Notes app. So that's a nice way of adding apps or adding access to an app. You no longer have to swipe to find it. Now, the problem is it can get, now you're adding more apps to your screens, to your home screen. So, it can get a little messy, I'm sure, because all of a sudden you got a bunch of the apps in multiple spots. But if you keep your iPad organized by home screens, it is a great way to add an app, for easy access for it. So, yes, I see in the chat there, it does work. So here's my iPhone. And let's go to this home screen here. I'm going to add my notes. I swipe down, I search, I drag, oops, tap and hold, pick it up. Come on, you can do it. It does work. There it is. And now I've just added it to that home screen. And again, it will be on, there it is on this home screen. So it's on two different home screens. It works the same way. As you can see, it's a little trickier on the iPhone, as everything is, smaller screen, but it does work on the iPhone as well.
Dan, can you answer Bella's question? Bella, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
I was wondering if this is it using iCloud as the means of transporting it to the other devices?
No, you cannot keep your home screens in sync. God, I hope that we can do this in the next year or two. I think that would be great. I have two iPads and I'd like to have the same setup on both iPads. No, it does not use iCloud for any of this little magicry here. All you're doing is it's on the device only.
Well, how does it maintain the connection of the alias?
It's kind of, well, the data is stored in iCloud. So the Notes app, all my data is stored in iCloud and I don't have to have it in there. But, when I duplicate this, let's try it again. Search. Try it again. So when I go and take this has nothing to do. Why isn't it letting me do that?
Former German soldier has fond memories of the
Well, let me put it on twice on the screen, but I can go here. Oh, there it is. I can go and take this. Like I say, all the iPad is just keeping track of that alias. It's not anything to do with iCloud. iCloud, you don't have to be on the internet or anything like that. If that makes sense. Nothing to do with iCloud. It's all done on device.
All right. Thank you, Bella. All right. All yours, Dan.
All right. All right. So the next thing that I have for the iPad is customizing the control center. What we're able to do is customize the control center on the iPad and iPhone. So I have an iPad Pro here. I have my control center. what we can do here is customize what is in this control center. Now, what made me think of this is I have an Apple TV. And, that remote is sometimes hard to find. I do have the new aluminum remote, which I love. And it's much better than the old remote, but sometimes it's still a small remote. You can't find it. But guess what? We always have nearby. We always have our iPhone nearby. Most of us do. In my case, I always have my iPad nearby as well. So what I can do is I can control my Apple TV through my control center. And the way that I do that is I have to customize this control center. And when I say customize, what we're basically doing is adding controls to this bottom portion here. We can't do anything with these here, but what we can do is customize these. We can move them around, we can add, we can remove. So the way that we do that is we go to our settings app and we go to Control Center. And what you're going to see here is included controls. Those are the ones that are here right now. And then when we go to the bottom here, these are more controls. So let's say I didn't use Stage Manager. It's a little buggy on the iPad. I don't use it. I can remove it from the control center. But what I do like to have is my Apple TV remote. I must have it in there already. There it is, Apple TV remote. So now when I go to my control center, you're going to see that I no longer have the Stage Manager there. And if I want to control my Apple TV, I click on this little remote here. And look what we have. It's connected up to my living room right now. And if I turn that TV on, what I'm able to do is control that Apple TV directly from my iPad. And we can do the same thing, probably more valuable on the iPhone here. Let's see here. Let's go. There we go. That's a little better. If I go to my settings, and you're going to see, just like with the iPad here, there's my control center. And I have my Apple TV remote here. So now, when I go to my control center, I tap on the remote, and I can now control my Apple TV from my iPhone. We can see we have a few different controls here. Let's say change a channel, go back. I don't know what I'm doing to my TV right now. It's probably going to go nuts. And if you have multiple Apple TVs, you can select which Apple TV you want to connect to and control. So you do that through customizing your control center. Then you have easy access to various controls. I usually have in here, let's see what I do have in here. We're going to go to my iPhone. The flashlight is in here, of course. I have a timer, calculator, camera. I probably don't need in there. Low power mode. I always use that, and I'm a big fan of low power mode. Then you have, various hearing, text size, that kind of thing. Magnifier is a good one. You can put dark mode, guided access, and I believe it doesn't have much on there, but I think you can even, some third-party apps will allow you to add stuff in there as well. So pretty nice little trick there for your control center. All right, what do we have next? Let me get my notes up here. All right. Oh, this one is a great one. Screenshots. Now, this is only on iPad and iPhone. You can't do this on the Mac, unfortunately. But let's go over to my iPad here. And I'm going to go to Safari. And we're just going to go to this CNN article here. Now, what I would like to do is create a PDF of this article. Maybe I want to share it with someone. Well, you're going to see it's a nice little long article there. Well, when you take a screenshot in Safari, this does not work in Chrome or anything like that. This is a Safari only feature. When you take a screenshot in Safari on the iPad and iPhone, what you are able to do, I'm going to take a screenshot here. What you're able to do is set if you want the screen. So this is basically the display. We can see that it just is what I was looking at there. But if we go over to the right, you're going to see full page. And when I click on full page, watch what happens. It just took a screenshot of that entire article. You can see we have the scroll bar here on the right. This is one long PDF. So now I could go and mark it up. And once I mark it up, I just go over to share. I save it to my Files app. I put it in iCloud Drive. I put it on the desktop. I save it. I can go and name it down here. I could send it to someone. Now, when I go over to my Mac, let's see here. Go over to my Mac because I saved it to my desktop, which is in iCloud. I'm going to use the hot corner trick. And when we go to PDFs, look what we have here. That article. You can do the same thing on the iPad. You can do the same thing on the iPhone. I just go to Safari and say I wanted to screenshot this of my site, take a screenshot of it. I open it up, and across the top, what you're going to see is full page. Tap on full page, and now, oops, I'm marking it up. Now I have that entire full page. Tap on done. I can delete it. I can save it. There's another way of saving it to your Files app. This is new in macOS. In iPadOS and iOS 16. But basically, I'm just going to delete this. So that is a if you're reading an article and you want to share it with someone, if you're in Safari, this does not work in Chrome or anything like that, and it only works on the iPad and the iPhone. But if you're in Safari, take a screenshot of it and then tap on full screen, and what you're going to have is the entire article, and then you can put it into a Messages app and message it to someone. So, all right. Next we have. Are we doing on time? All right. Use the keyboard as a trackpad. I wanted to touch on this because I think this one is extremely powerful. We talked about this in one of our classes as well, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but it is so powerful, and I forgot about it until I watched that class. This is how valuable our classes are. I work on these things every day. I teach people how to use them. I create videos and I completely forgot about this trick until I think it was Christian talked about it. And so I thought I'd just quickly bring it up and show you how it's valuable to me. So when I go to my iPhone here and I tap on the URL down at the bottom here, and what I would like to do is add, maybe I'm typing in the URL manually or, something along that line. So I need to put my cursor at the very end here of the where I load in my URL. Well, when I tap there, it selects everything. This was always my frustration until Christian saved my butt. I'd be like, oh, and then I'd have a few curse words come out, and finally I'd get it, and now I'm able to type. Well, basically, all we have to do is just tap and hold on the space bar, and when I do, look what happens. Look at that cursor. It's just moving around. So now I go to this one here. I tap on the URL. I want to get to the end of that URL. I tap and hold on space. There's my cursor, and I can sit here and move that cursor around. And I can go all the way to the end if I want. We can do the same thing on the iPad. I can just go up here. I have a keyboard here, but basically you tap and hold on the virtual keyboard, and what you're on the spacebar with virtual keyboard, and what you're able to do is just move that cursor around. Great tip, and one that I thought I should bring back up because I forgot all about it, and Christian helped me out with that just by our classes. So, all right. What do I have next?
Can you get to a question, or do you have a?
I'll do one.
You want to?
Yeah, let me I got two more here. I'll make them real quick.
Okay,
this one is
go
kind
ahead.
of a cool, and then we'll get into the questions.
Okay.
So basically, add files as a widget. So what you can do on the iPad and the iPhone, I'll just show you on the iPad, is you can add the Files app as a widget, and basically you can turn the iPad almost into a Finder window. So I'm going to tap and hold. I go up to the plus in the upper left-hand corner, and I go over to files here, and I have these different files here. So I'm just going to take this one here, and I'll just drag it there. And look what I have here. Direct access to my files app. Now, which folder is this going into? Well, we can change that. Tap and hold, I edit the widget. Right now it's going into my recents, my worst. I would rather have it go into, oops. I would rather have it go into shared. And now I'm looking at my shared files. And you can create multiple instances of this. So this one could go into shared files. I could create another widget, and that could go into my recents, create another widget that could go into iCloud Drive. I could even stack them, and then I just swipe up to go through my different folders. So that's the way you can add your folders, and you can do the same thing on the iPhone just by using widgets. I'll end with this one here. If you have a Mac, if you have an iPad with one of Apple's smart keyboards, which really are not that smart because they don't have any function keys. They don't have an escape key. We love, when we're watching a full screen video on YouTube, how do we get out of that on the Mac? We hit the escape key. We can't do that if we have a smart keyboard that Apple created. You can do it with a Logitech because they have the function keys and the escape key. But this iPad Pro here with the smart keyboard doesn't have an escape key. So what do? Well, what we can do is we can map. If I go over here to keyboard, let's see here, excessive, is it under general? I go to keyboard, and you're going to see hardware keyboard. This is what I have. And down at the bottom, we have modifier keys. What I'm able to do is map my caps lock key to be my escape key. I never use a caps lock key. I never type in all caps. Never have. So what I now can do is map that caps lock key to be an escape key. So now when I'm in a full screen video on YouTube, and let's go to YouTube. Well, I won't play it. I don't want to get into copyright, that kind of stuff, although it's on YouTube. But basically, if I'm in full screen, I want to get out of it. I hit the caps lock key and it escapes out. Anything that we've used the escape key for, now we can hit the caps lock key and it'll do that. So if you have a smart keyboard with an iPad Pro or an iPad, what you're now able to do is map that. I shouldn't say now. This has been around for a while now, but it, seldom used kind of thing. All right, that's what I got for some of my favorite tips. Let's do a few Q&A. We have a few minutes here. So.
Okay, Jim, you've had your hand up and your mic open for a while. Do you have a quick question? Jim Cutler?
Oh,
Was that a mistake?
I forgot. Yeah,
Okay.
that was a long time ago, and I just forgot to put my reaction down.
All right, we're gonna move on. Chris Frank, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, often on the iPhone, I accidentally erase something in, it could be in messages or in email. Is there any way of recapturing that, of going backwards and regaining it?
The clipboard history on the iPad and iPhone, much, just like the Mac, will only keep the last thing. So if you erase something and then did something else and copied something, you're not going to be able to do it. Basically, if you realize it right away, the big trick is, I think it still works. I have my iPhone here. Do this. Shake it. What that'll do is that'll tell it like, oops, I didn't mean to do that. And it'll undo whatever you did. I think it still works. I haven't tried it, but I think it still works.
That's something Apple could improve, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think they should have, clipboard history, kind of thing. And on the, you can use third-party apps, but it's still kind of a little wonky to do that. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Dan, go and open up the system settings, please. We're going to show you where you can set your display to when you want it to go to sleep.
Oh, you found it?
I found it. Like lock screen.
Nice.
Lock screen. lock screen.
Lock
On the
screen.
left, lock screen. Go down to lock
There it
screen.
is.
All right, this is where you change it.
Got it. Thank you. There it is.
Mhm.
Mhm. As I said, they move things around. It's yeah, it's going to be frustration for a while, but I think the overall it'll be better in the end because it will, there's a lot more stuff that they can do in here, but yeah, and they are still moving things around. Privacy and security, I saw a beta where this privacy and security here was two separate settings. Siri and Spotlight were two separate settings. So they are still experimenting with how this whole thing is going to look.
All right, so let's see if we can get to these last two. Stephen Ramirez, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Real quick, that tap undo feature works great, but there is a setting to turn it on.
On the iPad?
Yes, and phone. It doesn't go on by default. I believe there's a setting for it. I use it all the time, and but I believe there is a settings tap undo. It's called. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, there's the shake. So yeah, I might have to search for it. But yep. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Tim Baker, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hey there, Dan. Tim Baker, Fort Worth, Texas. I just wanted to make a quick comment on your screen capture. You can't not get the full page capture with Stage Manager enabled.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. I tried it. I'm going, where is the button? And then I turned off Stage Manager and the full screen capability came back.
Okay. All right. Are you liking Stage Manager?
Not particularly.
No, I love it on the Mac, not on the iPad. Yep,
Right.
that's my sentiment. Yep,
Exactly.
Debbie Clark has a accompanying question about that. Debbie, can you unmute yourself and ask your question about Reader?
Yeah, I watched you do the CNN screenshot, and I thought, wouldn't it be, I don't know, easier or better looking if you went to Reader View first, instead of scrolling down all those pages with the ads and crap until you then can PDF that or screenshot it.
Yes, you can. There it is. I put it into Reader View and there's full page.
Well, let me add this. There are times, because I've done this a lot, and there are times that when you go to Reader View, some of the information that you're hoping to capture is not captured in Reader View. So
yeah, that could be right.
Yeah.
Such as what, Sheeta?
I love to cook. I do a lot of recipes, and sometimes when I'm in Reader View, all of the information about the recipe does not show up.
Yeah, Reader View is really designed for text here like that. And when you're looking at a recipe, it could have the ingredients and all that. And it might think that that's part of an ad or whatever. And it just wants to hide it because you're reading an article. That's what Reader View is really designed for, is articles, kind of thing. So yeah, depending on the content, you're going to have mixed results.
Yeah. Okay. I think there's a lot of good stuff in the chat. So Michael, you just unmuted yourself. Do you have a question or a comment, or you're just being anxious to say hi to Dan?
No. Question real quick.
Go ahead.
What versions does this full page Reader View go back? Or
it's been I would say probably iOS 14 at least.
Oh, terrific.
It's been around for a while.
That's a good one.
Yeah. It might have been there from day one, for all I know, but it's been around for a while.
Okay.
I see someone's asked how to create a screenshot. Yep, just depending on the device that you have, but basically the up volume and the sleep wake button.
Okay, quickly. Chris Frank also asked, can you switch focus on and off without planning? Do you understand that?
Yeah. Okay. So when you go to focus here, let's get rid of that screenshot. Like I say, focus is really, it's pretty powerful. When I go to focus here, and let's just go with school, what you're going to see here is set schedule. And basically I have three different ways to turn it on. I can have it based on time. So 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever. and Monday through Friday, that kind of thing. And what you are able to do is create, I believe you can create, so let's go with that one there. And add schedule. I can go and add the weekend in there, so you can add multiple instances of the same schedule. But on top of that, you can go with the location and app. So you could create a focus. This is what I recommend people doing, is create a focus for Zoom. When you're in a Zoom thing, turn all notifications off, and then when you open up Zoom, that focus is going to turn on, and when you close Zoom, that focus is going to turn off.
That's not what I meant, actually. But
I'm sorry.
Very interesting. What I meant was, on a previous iPhone I had, you just had an on-off button. Sometimes I don't want to plan ahead and switch it off. I just want to switch it on now because something's cropped up, and I cannot work out how to do that.
Okay, so that's in this. Am I right here? If I go to the control center, you're going to see school is on. And when I tap on the school, the word school, I can get to all of my focuses. But if you tap on the icon itself, it turns it on and off.
Aren't you asking for I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Just tap on the icon, it turns it on and off. If I want to switch focus, I tap on the word. So it depends on where you're tapping it.
On the iPhone?
Aren't you talking about do not disturb, Chris, just to turn off things?
Absolutely. I don't see how to do that on the iPhone anymore. It used to be very obvious. It's not so obvious now.
iPhone and do not disturb. Tap on the crescent moon.
So you have to get that. You have to.
What you have to do is tap on. If you have multiple focuses, make sure you're in the do not disturb. And then once you're in the do not,
to that screen. How do you get to that screen? You swipe
what
up?
you want to do is tap on the words here. See where my cursor is? Do not tap on this.
Yes, but how do you get to that?
That's the control screen. Go. What model iPhone do you have?
11 Pro Max.
So do you swipe from the upper right corner, or do you swipe straight down from the top to go to bring the?
Anyway, it's a swiping thing. Okay, I've got it.
Yes, it's a swiping thing.
Yeah.
On the top or the upper right corner.
They just moved. It confused me. Okay, thank you.
Yes, they do. All right, you're welcome. All right, with that, we are 2 minutes over. So thank you so much. Please unmute yourself and say thank you to Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Good one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.